بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the short reminder today, inshallah, I'll focus on three parts. Number one, in the first part, I'll address those brothers and sisters who have busy schedules, whether they have busy schedules and studying schedules or work schedules, and might be feeling a bit demoralized with their time management, and whether they're actually utilizing Ramadan to the best of their ability or not. So I'll shortly address that in the first part. Secondly, I'll address the aim of Ramadan, and so like upon my personal reflection, I kind of uncovered a slight misconception that I had, which I'm going to share with you, inshallah, in the hope that it will benefit you. And thirdly, I'll focus on what we should be doing in our approach to the last 10 days and 10 nights of Ramadan. So firstly, for those brothers and sisters who are struggling with busy schedules, right, especially those that are in the exam season, the students, and those who haven't been able to get any leave from work, and as a result, they find themselves maybe feeling a bit demoralized and a bit frustrated that they're not able to perform as many optional deeds such as the Qiyamul Layl or reading the Quran as a result of their task schedules. My address to these brothers is, my message to you brothers and sisters is that Ramadan is also known as the month of Sabr, right? It's known as the month of perseverance and patience. And as you may well know, perseverance and Sabr has three components. It has the component of action, of obedience. It has the second component of abstinence, of staying away, and it also has a third component of contentment, being content with the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Sabr has three components, brothers and sisters, yeah, and Ramadan is a month of Sabr. So if you find yourself slacking slightly in the first component with regards to action because of your tight schedules, then don't let the other two components also pass you by. So remember that Ramadan is also the month of Sabr, in the sense that it's the month of abstinence. So make sure when you're fasting, you ensure that all your limbs, your sawm is known as a sawmul jawarih, and your entire body, your eyes and your ears and your tongue, you always remain in a state of fast, and you constantly abstain from doing that which displeases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you can do this whilst you're studying, you can do this whilst you're working as well, and getting on with your day-to-day schedules. So at the same time, if you do this with the intention of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this will all count as ibadah for you. This will all be counted as worship, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you accordingly. So, and it reminds you of a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is recorded by Imam Ahmed, in which he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Al-mujahidu man jahada nafsahu fi ta'atillah," that the one who struggles in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who struggles against his own self, or his own nafs, his own desires. Again, this stresses the importance of the second type of sabr, whereby you have to persevere in stopping yourself from disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If your tight schedule does not allow you to do as much good, then at least do your best to abstain from doing haram. And as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the true mujahid, the true struggler, is the one who struggles against his own desires and his own nafs. And this is the beginning. And some of the ulama in explaining this say that this is the foundation of all other struggles. If you are unable to struggle against your own nafs, you will not be able to perform any other type of struggles. And I also remind you, brothers and sisters, those of you that are, again, with busy schedules, who are not able to allocate so much time to their salah or reading the Quran, remember to always maintain, to always be in the spirit of fast, to be in the spirit of fasting. And I remember this short piece of advice from a companion of the Prophet ﷺ, in which he said, do not make your fasting day and your non-fasting days equal. So make sure in the way you're acquitting yourself, in the way you're speaking, in the way you're approaching things, that it doesn't reflect the way you were doing it before Ramadan. So there should be a change in your approach to things. There should be a change in your attitude. There should be a change in your actions as well. And we'll now move on to the second part of the reminder, which is the pertaining to the aim of Ramadan. And I done some personal reflection, and I figured, and personally myself, I had a little shortcoming here as well. And my shortcoming was that I focused too much on trying to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with as much intensity as possible during this month. Right? So making the most out of this blessed the blessed time that we're in, blessed season, and as a result, increase the amount of acts of obedience that I'm doing, and try to remain in as intense as possible. So sleep, so basically remain sleep deprived for most of the months. Just try to exhaust myself in trying to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then I figured that my approach is a bit incorrect here, because Ramadan has two aspects, right? It has the aspect of like performance, and it also has the aspect of preparation as well. As much as you are urged to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obey the Sharia with intensity for a prolonged period of time, right? Ramadan is also supposed to prepare you, right? It's supposed to prepare you to continue living your life in a state of taqwa, right? Even after Ramadan. I think this part here, this aspect of preparation, is what most of us overlook. Now, if you were to view Ramadan as a training camp, right? The point of the training camp is to prepare you for that which comes after it. Viewing it like that, we should be thinking that the point of Ramadan is to instill and to cultivate within ourselves habits, right? Habits, good habits that we can then continue to implement even after this holy month is ended. This is where the problem with the extreme intensity comes, whereby if you're too intense in your acts of worship, and you're staying awake from after all the way until Fajr every single day, this is not something practical for you to continue even after Ramadan. So you need to look at the practical aspect of it. You need to also, as well as worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a high intensity, you need to also look at developing practical habits that you can continue even after Ramadan. Now, a perfect example of this is Qiyamul Layl. Okay, the most challenging aspect of Qiyamul Layl, of praying Tahajjud at night, yeah, all the brothers can relate to this, is waking up from sleep. That's the most challenging part. It's for you to go to sleep and then to wake up, right, before Fajr, before Salatul Fajr, to perform Tahajjud. This is the most difficult part. So if you want to be able to instill this habit within yourself, I would recommend, don't stay awake from Iftar all the way till Fajr. I've been trying this myself. Don't stay awake from Iftar all the way till, because you're not then overcoming that barrier which you're going to have to overcome after Ramadan, which is the barrier of sleep, of waking up from sleep. So why not during this month, if you pray your Taraweeh, go to sleep after Taraweeh, and then try to wake up an hour and a half or 2 hours later to perform Tahajjud again. Now, if you do this for a prolonged period of time, 2, 3, 4 weeks until the end of the month, inshallah, you will be able to then continue doing this even after Ramadan. And therefore, you have now developed a habit that you did not have before Ramadan. and you've ticked that aspect of Ramadan, which is the preparation aspect. So as I said, that the taqwa is the practical one, is the practical amali taqwa, and it's also the taqwa which prepares you for that which, for the future. So here you've actually ticked that component, whereby you've developed a habit, a good habit that you can then continue to implement even after Ramadan has ended. So this is the second part of the reminder for myself and for the brothers here. Let's try to be a bit practical, with Ramadan, and try to use it as a month in which we can change our routines, right, and change our daily routines, which we can then even implement after the month is ended, not just during this month itself. And thirdly, as we are on the doorstep, inshallah, only about a week to go until the last 10 days of Ramadan commence, I'll remind you of a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which is narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha, who said, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يجتهد في العشر الأواخر ما لا يجتهد في غيره. She said that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم used to strive hard during the last 10 nights of Ramadan, during the last third of Ramadan, like he didn't strive at any other time, during any other time. So the intensity with which he used to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be compared to any other time during the year. This shows us that the Prophet ﷺ would pick up, he would take it up a notch even more when approaching the final stretch of this month. So with that in mind, let's try to focus on two aspects in particular. I don't want to give the brothers and sisters too many suggestions. Number one, let's try to increase the amount of istighfar that we do. Seeking forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? There's a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in which he said, may the one who reaches Ramadan but is not forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may he be humiliated and shamed. And he says, it's a great shame and a humiliation if we reach Ramadan and we do not earn the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's do plenty of istighfar as we approach the last 10 nights, and also during the last 10 nights and days of Ramadan as well. Also, you'll find that with regards to istighfar, this is what the Prophet ﷺ especially allocated. He said when he was asked by one of the companions about what they should say during, which dua they should make during the last 10 nights, he recommended that they should say, Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. Oh Allah, you are the most pardoning and the most forgiving, and you love to forgive, so forgive me. So he made seeking istighfar, seeking the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as almost like one of the most important tasks that we should be performing during the last 10 nights and days. And secondly, my second piece of advice for myself and for all the brothers here and sisters, to take on, inshallah, and implement during the last 10 nights and days, is to increase the amount of dua that we make. Okay, and as far as dua is concerned, the best du'as, the best supplications that we can learn, memorize, and say are the supplications of the Prophet ﷺ. Those are the Prophet ﷺ himself used to make. These are known as the prophetic du'as. So let's try to, inshallah, learn these prophetic du'as, because they are very comprehensive. They're very comprehensive and very blessed, in the sense that they, in a very small number of words, you're asking for the khair, for so much goodness, the goodness of the dunya and the goodness of the akhirah. So let's try to memorize and understand the du'as, the prophetic du'as that the Prophet ﷺ himself used to make, and then say these du'as, inshallah, in our salawat, in our sujood. And also, lastly, with regards to these du'as that we learn, inshallah, let's try to say, make the most of the time that we have before we break our fast. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, ثلاث دعوات مستجابات. There are three supplications that are not rejected. And one of them is دعوة الصائم ودعوة المظلوم ودعوة المسافر. So there are three supplications which are not rejected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number one, the supplication of the fasting person. And in a different riwayah, حتى يفطر. And the supplication of the fasting person until he breaks his fast. Which means that right before Maghrib, we should be striving to make the most out of this time by just making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And preferably memorizing and using the prophetic du'as, which I mentioned earlier. And secondly, he said that the dua which is not rejected is the dua of the one who's wronged, and the person who's wronged. And thirdly, he said that the dua of the musafir, or the traveler, is not rejected. And I'll end it with that, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair for listening. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to act on that which we have mentioned today, and to benefit from these from the days which remain in this blessed month. Wa jazakumullahu khair.